Finding IP or hostname of origin machine, SSH. I connect to a number of machines constantly, from different physical locations, and thus different physical machines. Most of this is done though SSH, sometimes a gateway machine or two is required, which I invoke via proxy command in tilde.ssh config. I'd like to know if there's a method to identify the IP or hostname of the machine that calls the initial connection, i.e. the machine I'm working on, at the remote end. I don't want to send environment variables as some machines I don't have root to set per user environment. The $ssh_client environment variable is useful for direct connections, but only lists the most recent gateway. My current idea for a solution is to grab $ssh_client, SSH to it, find that machine's $ssh_client value and repeat until it doesn't exist, then grab the hostname and pull it back somehow. Seems like a bit of a hack job though. Does anyone have a better method? I'm working in a bash shell mostly, but I'm also happy for any suggestions that don't use it too.
I understood correctly, you are connection directly from origin machine to destination with proxy command hops. And so here are 3 hacks for you. Third, added after comment on usage scenario. First, use remote port forwarding to allow you to get back to your origin machine with a remote emic port column dston localnet column dsd port and localnet. Second, abuse accept env_lc_ on target. It's not nice, but it's quite common to allow locale variables even when acceptor environment is not available. So now you can do. Third, use SSH remote forward to identify host or host type. Now connect with port forwarding.
I have never tried, but I can think of something that may work. You do not let SSH start your login shell, but take matters in your own hands. You can tell SSH to run arbitrary commands. Instead of, you would run something along the lines of, what this does is, it gives SSH something else to do instead of launching a login shell. That something is a string, which will be run as command, remotely. We use this to launch a shell in a very special manner. We give it an environmental variable that _origin_host, which contains our IP on F0, you may need to change that. The trick we perform is that we put the command to execute remotely in double quotes. The double quotes, at least in bash, mean that before the string is passed to SSH, our shell scans it and performs expansions or replacements, where appropriate. This means our shell will evaluate the $ifconfig part to our current IP address, and pass SSH a string which contains the definition for an environmental variable with our local IP address. Once logged into the remote machine, echo $that_origin_host should print your IP address. To develop that call to SSH, I shamelessly took from here for extracting the IP address, and here for the T, and how to launch something interactive. Disclaimer, I am unsure about the L and I option to have been in bash. Maybe you need to omit them.
You can type who_m on the remote end to get information on the currently logged in user, including the hostname. Who gives you information on logged in users, and the M switch shows you only hostname and user associated with Steam.
Did you try the following?